So we've gotten organized and we've exported an OMF, and if need be, we now know how to export individual tracks for a dedicated audio mixer. But there's one more thing we need to do to make a successful handoff, and that's create a video reference file, and that's what I want to show you in this movie. Here in our project, I have the sequence 0104 export reference opened up, and this is just a duplicate of the sequence that we've been working with. And with the sequence selected, I'm going to come up to the File menu and choose Export and choose Media. Now, I'm exporting right now a waveform audio file. That's simply because that was the last file type that I exported. But what I want to do is change this to H.264. I find that exporting a high-resolution H.264 for an audio mixer is usually a safe bet. However, you want to make sure that you check with the person that you're making the handoff to, because I've also had to export ProRes files or even DNX HD files on the request of that audio person. Now, after I've chosen H.264, I'm going to make sure here in my preset that I choose Match Source High Bitrate. That will create a nice, high-quality, full raster or full frame size H.264, but it's pretty small because it's such a highly compressed file. If I come over to my video and my audio settings, all of these options look good. But on the audio tab, I want to make sure that I actually do export audio. So all my settings here look good, but up here underneath the output name, yeah, make sure that this export audio box is checked. And you might be thinking to yourself, Rob, why do I need to export audio with this file? I just exported it with the OMF. Well, when you include audio in this file, the audio mixer can line up the audio from this file and compare it to the OMF to make sure that everything is in sync and everything is in phase. So it's always a good idea to include audio with your video reference file. Next, I'm going to change the name of this output file. I'll go to my desktop here and I'll rename this NFCC video reference.mp4. I'll click Save. And then there's one last thing I want to do. Over here on the Effects tab in the Export Settings dialog box, I can add some burn-in information. Burn-in also is called overlays. And what I want to do is scroll down just a little bit, and I first want to add a name overlay. I have a couple choices for the format of that name overlay. I can choose the source file name, but I can also choose the output file name. And I'm going to choose this option right here, output file name without extension. And the reason I do this is because if you have several versions of the project, it's a good idea to know what you're actually looking at. Is this version 1, version 2, version 3, and so on? So this is the first version, so I won't add a version number to it. But if I had to export an additional file, I'd add V2 to the end of the file name. Now, it doesn't do us much good having the name of this file here at the top of the screen. I kind of want it sort of smaller and out of the way. And I can do that quite easily with the controls here for offset, size, and opacity. So I'm going to scroll or hover over one of these controls, and I can position it lower down on the screen, but I can also type in a value here. Try a value of like 820 or so. Yeah, that puts it nice down in the center of the bottom of the screen. I think I'm also going to make it a little smaller, add a value of 10 there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So now that I have the name overlay or the name burn-in, I'm also going to add a timecode overlay. So I'll enable that, and then I think I'm going to position that in the bottom left-hand side, and I'll also move that down just a little bit. Let's make it the same size, value of 10 or so. There we go. And I'll line it up the best that I can with the name. Something like that works pretty well. This way, the mixer has an actual timecode reference, and that timecode, it's really important, should match the timecode of your OMF. If you remember from the previous movie, we changed the start time of the sequence to start at 1 hour, and if you did that in your OMF, you want to make sure that your video file is also starting at 1 hour. So after I hit export, I'll just wait a few minutes, and then I'll have a video file alongside my OMF that I can hand off to the audio mixer that I'm working with. And when you're making handoffs to a dedicated audio person, putting a little thought and effort into it goes a long way. You first want to make sure that you're organized, that you've renamed your tracks appropriately so you know what should go on what track. You've created that OMF to the specifications that the audio mixer requires, and you've created a video reference file so that the mixer, well, can mix to picture. Now that we've done a handoff, let's dive into doing some audio work ourselves inside of Premiere Pro.